I'm filming OK, you're in the stream, live on YouTube and Al Jazeera. Today, we're teaming up with our colleagues at Witness to showcase their new film, The Snake Charmer. The documentary charts the journey of one of Bollywood's biggest stars, from the silver screen to social activism.
I'm Malika Bilal, and I'll be taking your questions and comments to our guests live on the program. Well, The Snake Charmer follows Amir Khan on a journey through India's TV and film industry as he attempts to change the way Indians perceive and treat women. Take a look.
Misogyny, sexual assault, education, dowry, rape, gang rape. Justice is very far away.
Bollywood has massive global appeal from Delhi to Toronto. Women's rights activists argue that some of these films reinforce unhealthy attitudes towards women.
I'm attempting to change the way people look at things and feel about things. I want to change the way you feel towards a girl child.
There is this big schism in their identities, and it's very difficult to find out that where the actor ends and the person begins.
Joining us now, Nina Pashalidou is director of The Snake Charmer, and Dr. Nidhi Shendurnikar is assistant professor of journalism and communication at the MS University of Baroda.
Raksha Kumar is a freelance multimedia journalist, and Prerana Thakurdesai is a filmmaker and journalist. Ladies, it's great to have you here. Nina, this film, this access you had, I'm just looking at Aamir Khan's Twitter feed. He has 22.3 million followers. He is a huge Bollywood star. How did you even get close enough to him to put him in a documentary?
Well, it wasn't very easy in the beginning. I did have the idea by reading an article when I was doing PhD, actually, in the College of Georgetown. And I read his story, and I saw that.
So Nina, at the moment we can't hear you very well, so I'm going to just work behind the scenes to come back to you and just get your audio in place. Let me just go to Raksha. Raksha, as we're looking at this documentary, The Snake Charmer, and this huge Indian Bollywood star, when you look at it, what do you see?
I watched the film about 12 hours ago, and one of my first reactions was, why make the film? And why, if the idea was to look at how Bollywood portrays women, then it should have been a wider discussion than just looking at Amir Khan's portrayal or Amir Khan's involvement in Satyamev Jayate, or a very specific show, which actually did not, I think, aired for about 3 or 4 seasons. So that was my first question, actually. Why this film, and why look at gender portrayal in mainstream Hindi cinema through the eyes of Satyamev Jayate? It had some extremely important points to make, which I was really glad to see being made on screen. But I was actually hoping for a wider, perhaps, look, a broader look at gender portrayals, at portrayals of women in mainstream Hindi cinema.
Actually, let me see if I can get Amir Khan to actually answer this for you. Here's a little clip of him explaining the idea behind his discussion show. Have a look.
Creative people make you feel good. They make you laugh, they make you cry, they make you forget your stress, give you a good time. But that's not all. The responsibility of a creative person is also to bring grace to society, to build the social fabric of society, to infuse morals in people.
Well, the film follows Aamir, as you saw there, through the production of that television show. This is Zainab commenting both on the film and the TV show. Zainab says the film is beautifully portrayed, giving a balanced view, and it showcases the very real struggles faced by such a venture. I loved the TV show. I cried along with it. Even if one family is influenced, it's a step in the right direction. She goes on to say, Aamir is doing much more than just empowering women. He's trying to change the mindset of people who've had an upbringing where women are not seen as equals or a burden. So Nina, I know you're back with us. You hear this praise for the film. Is this part of the reason why you decided to follow Aamir in the first place?
I think the story of the film, of course, it's Amir Khan and his cause and his activist work, but the real story is the stories of the women in India and the courage they had to come out and the power of just one Bollywood star to actually make a change in a way that hasn't been done before. So I think it's stated in the film as well. If if one person can see Amir Khan do something about this. And, if he thinks that, oh, I have a daughter, let me just, think in a different way and treat her in a different way and send her to a university and protect her in a way. Protection is not the right word, but, try to help her with her life. I think that's very, very important. I think that's what Amir had in mind. And I know there's a lot of doubt, in India and elsewhere about, what exactly he was doing and why he picked to do the show. But I think his motivation was much more. It was quite deep, actually. I think he really wanted to make a difference in Satyamev Jayate, and that's why he chose to do the show, because I think there was a cost in the end, and you can see that in the film.
So Nina followed around Aamir Khan as he was making the final series of Satyamev Jayate, which means truth alone triumphs. And the talk show highlights some very important issues in India. Let me give you one example. This is Parvin's story. Have a look.
सो रही थी तो रजाई के अंदर मेरा सारा शरीर था, सिर्फ चेहरा बाहर था। आया एकदम आके मेरे ऊपर हावी हुआ, यहाँ से उसने मुझे पकड़ लिया, बस चेहरे को अपनी दांतों से बहुत बुरी तरह से ऐसे खाया जैसे कोई जानवर एक मांस की रोटी खाता है। जब तक खाता रहा, जब तक कि मतलब मेरा चेहरा उसने पूरा खराब नहीं कर दिया। सब लोगों ने उसे देखा भी।
ये उस वक्त की तस्वीरें हैं जब ऐसा हुआ था?
जी।
एक लड़के की चाहत में एक इंसान कितनी हैवानियत तक उतर आ सकता है, ये उसकी एक मिसाल है।
जी।
Parana, you worked on this talk show with Aamir. It's difficult to separate him as an actor from the activism that he's trying to actually help people get access to, and the issues he's helping people get access to. What was he like to work with?
Well, yes, and that's kind of understandable in the sense that, actors have this persona that people relate to, and then when you see him on the show visibly in a different way, you wonder you try to make that connect. However, from the conversations we had and the research that went behind the show, he was as he was on television, as he was with us when he was, discussing the stories of these women. A lot of, I think, talk went on behind about how he cried on television and whether he did that on purpose, whether it was something to just get the ratings up. And well, that's not, I guess, the person that he is. He cried in, in the research meetings that we had as well. So, as far as the persona is concerned, they're two different things. But I think I would just like to go back to Raksha's point here. I think that we're having two different conversations. The conversation one being the portrayal of, women in Hindi cinema, and that's different. And I think this conversation will be different, which is the portrayal of women and the issues in India, where, that this show really undertook. So, I think they're two different conversations. I don't think we should kind of mix these two together.
Nina, let me just bring you back in here. When you started on this journey with Aamir Khan, you named the film The Snake Charmer, and a lot of people have questioned why you would do that. Can you explain the title of the film?
Yes, of course. It was The Snake Charmer came from what they name Amir as. In India, they call Amir the Snake Charmer because of his power to allure the crowds and to really put a spell on the crowds. I mean, he's one of the biggest Bollywood stars. And I have to just go back to the last point. One of the very difficult things in the films and the challenges is that Amir just made everything seem so easy. And he's very easygoing. He cries a lot. He cried in the interviews. He cries on the show. And also he's very easygoing, very accessible. And that sometimes it just makes it seem so easy. And as a director, I was really trying to find, those difficult moments that Amir would, break or would, do something different. But this is like his life. This is how he goes on every day. He makes a film, and then he goes out and does, something that has to do with activism. He does, he does the show. He comes up with another idea, and also, he also helps a lot of people in India. He helps a lot of women on the show in other cases. Something that's not very well known, and he doesn't really want to talk about it very much. So that was one of the biggest challenges, I think, as well.
So Nidhi, I want to bring. Go ahead, Prerana.
Something there. The film also refers to him as an activist, an actor, an activist. I think that's a word that he kind of shies away from, and he's repeatedly said that he's an entertainer and not an activist. And the show was not really activism, but a form of entertainment that kind of showed different facets of India. And I think he makes a distinction very clearly, and that would make every one of us an activist in that sense if he's an activist.
So on that point, I hear you there, Prerana. We got this comment live on YouTube. Brad says people need to stop looking at actors and athletes as role models. Another person on Twitter weighs in. This is Anil, who says, Aamir Khan is not an advocate for women, but he gave respect and importance to women that is eye-opening for gender equality in India. And at least he tried as an actor. Nidhi, I want to bring you in here via the phone. Do you think the TV show was an eye-opener for many people?
I personally have watched a few episodes of the TV show. I could not watch the entire episodes of Satyamev Jayate. And I believe that before we come into any judgment about what kind of impact Satyamev Jayate had on Indian audiences with regards to issues like gender equality, social issues like stereotyping women, I think it did manage to open up conversations in families as to that the fact that issues like dowry, issues like female infanticide, which are usually not discussed in the Indian household, because there was a popular actor hosting this television show, coming onto television and talking about these these issues very openly. I think the one impact was definitely that he brought these conversations into the household, and I think that's in fact a very big step, a very big contribution of Satyamev Jayate. But I would really be skeptical about the fact that probably this show has been able to bring about any drastic change in the way Indians perceive gender roles, Indians perceive gender stereotypes. That is something that we have to really delve into deeply if there is some kind of systematic research that's been carried out as to what kind of impact popular culture has on the gender perception. That is where we could be able to find out the impact of Satyamev Jayate. But I really believe that it's a great step, because when you have an actor like Amir Khan, who's been followed by many people, who's a role model for many people, him just talking about these issues does impact a lot of young minds.
Nina, one of the things that you captured in your documentary, The Snake Charmer, was the pushback, the protests, the criticisms. At one point, protesters even said to Aamir Khan, well, you should just leave the country. Let's have a look at that a little bit from the documentary.
कि जो भी कलाकार मित्र हैं, साहित्यकार मित्र हैं, उनका ये दायित्व बनता है राष्ट्र के प्रति, समाज के प्रति, कि समाज को जोड़ने का कार्य हो। कोई भी ऐसी प्रक्रिया जिससे समाज में विभाजन की संभावना उत्पन्न होती हो, उस प्रक्रिया को अपने आप को उससे अलग रखें।
तो मुझे लगता है कि कोई विदेशी ताकत के प्रभाव में या इनकी सिनेमा के हित में जो दुबई की शक्तियां हैं, जो वहाँ दादा लोग बैठे हैं, उसके दबाव में उसने बोला है और उनको देश छोड़कर जाना चाहिए, तो सरकार उनको एक एयर इंडिया में फ्री टिकट देना चाहिए।
Nina, did you know what you were getting into culturally?
Well, India is a very diverse country and a difficult country to understand, I think. We did spend a lot of time there, and from my experience of being a director and filming films in different countries, I mean, that helped a lot. But I wanted to just go back to the activism subject, and I was going to say that here we're talking about celebrity activism. And when we talk about that, I think we have to compare what Amir is doing with what, for example, George Clooney is doing. He's campaigning, he was campaigning for Darfur. And you see Leonardo DiCaprio, for example, campaigning for the environment. when you see Amir campaigning for, in this way, and this is his way, a TV show and his films after that, for women's rights and for other, for other human rights in India, I think you have to understand that he's going against his own country. That's why we see here, people and politicians, telling him to leave the country, because these are very sensitive issues in India. And I think this is what, you really get that understanding when you spend time in India.
Raksha?
I just wanted to quickly add to the point of celebrity activism, because that is really important. There's actually very little celebrity activism if you comparatively in India. So if you only look at it in terms of celebrity activism, yes, this definitely had kind of made inroads. But then I guess the question one asks is, with the might of the kind of, it had starred one of the largest television channels, Aamir Khan, highest grossing Bollywood actor, you had extremely good research teams and production teams. So with that kind of might, did the show make the kind of impact that it originally set out to, is probably a question one needs to just put out there. And I mean, it's difficult to quantify. I'm sure nobody has numbers and nobody can assess the kind of impact. But it's a question one should ask. So you ran maybe 3 or 4 seasons. Was there some kind of a policy shift? Did something happen with all the kind of resources that was pumped into the show? Is probably a valid question to put out there.
I think that there is just to
Prana, you were working on the show. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I think it's a valid question, and I think a lot of people had that question as well. What was the impact of the show, and given the resources? And just to put it out there, I think everybody, all of us who were part of the team, were kind of learning through the time, the first, second, third season, learning about issues. So we had our own personal growth in that sense. But if most of course, it cannot be quantified. Most of it is anecdotal. But, for example, the episode on child sexual abuse, soon after the episode was aired, we got 14 million responses from people over Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. And we even compiled a booklet of, some of the most poignant responses that we got. And of course, in terms of, we're not arrogant to say that, the show changed things in India, because A, they haven't changed, and B, it's one of the many efforts that really takes in bringing forth the momentum to kind of build the change, whether it is about creating the child sexual abuse workshops in schools, whether it is popularizing the concept of generic medicines, all these kind of, I think the show kind of added to the momentum that many other factors in India did at that point in time to build conversations and pressure, for governments to act. For example, even the health minister of Maharashtra at that time told me that this is a show that kind of kind of pushed him and, to conduct more raids on clinics that were doing sex-selective abortions, or kind of, crack down on those clinics. So we've had anecdotal experiences, but again, we're not arrogant to say that, it kind of changed the face of India.
So there is one point here that several people are mentioning online, and it is the industry itself, whether that's media, whether that's Bollywood. This is from Noor. She's a former member of the stream team. She writes in, keep in mind, Aamir Khan's early films glorified harassment and violence against women. We should critique the industry he participated in. So in doing that critique, this is Bollywood in specific in that comment, but this one is a little bit wider. This is from Kamla. This is a video comment we got on the media in general in India. This is what she said.
If media and media people are humane, gender sensitive, and if they are passionate about equality, justice, and human rights for all, then they can promote gender equality. They can promote a positive image of women and also a positive image of men who are gentle and kind and good to all people. But if media are only passionate about profit and TRPs, then of course none of this can happen. It's pretty simple.
So Raksha, what do you make of that on changing the media landscape?
Yes, I completely agree with what Dr. Bhasin just said. If the media itself is not sensitive, if it has people who are not gender sensitive, who do not understand gender justice, then I'm sure the kind of output that they would have would necessarily be insensitive, specifically to women and other minorities. However, I just wanted to quickly respond to Noor's point there about Aamir Khan having made films earlier on in his career that didn't portray women in a good light. I would like to point out that the film ends on a note where the film talks about Dangal, which was his last release, Hindi release, sorry. Not the last release, but one of the last releases, and the film talks about how he portrays, portrayal of women there has changed in Dangal, etc. But Dangal also had some extremely valid criticism coming from feminist circles, saying that it was talking about the girls there from a very patriarchal perspective. The father, who Aamir Khan plays, actually pushed his younger daughters into things that they did not really want to do. So it's not just it's not just earlier part of his career where he has been accused of not being very sensitive to the portrayal of women. It's also much recently. I think Dangal was 2016. So and it was much after the snake charmer. So it's even until much recently. And the snake charmer catches a very important point, wherein one of his most famous films, Three Idiots, talks about rape in a very kind of a light-hearted, almost joking way in a particular scene. So I guess Aamir's critics would say that he probably still continues to portray characters which fall into the larger structures of patriarchy.
Let me just show our audience a little clip from Nina's documentary where you can see the genesis, where the idea came from for Dargul. Dargul was a film about female wrestlers. That's a little idea about what the plot is, but here's where the idea came from. Have a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Commonwealth gold medalists Geeta Kumari and Babita Kumari. तो आपने मतलब जो गांव में दंगल होते हैं, रेसलिंग होती है, वो भी आपने की है गांव में?
हाँ बिल्कुल, हम लड़कों के साथ ही हम कुश्ती करते थे क्योंकि
और कोई लड़कियां ही नहीं
और
है?
कई बार ऐसा होता था कि लड़कों के साथ कुश्ती हम लड़कों को हरा भी लेते थे।
अच्छा, हाँ।
तो बोलते थे कोई किसी लड़के को लड़ने के लिए तो मना कर देते थे कि ये सोचते थे कि लड़की से हार गया।
हाँ, तो मतलब लड़के जो है वो आपसे लड़ने से डरते थे कहीं आपसे डर के हार गए तो क्या बात है। तो दोस्तों अब हम थ्री के जरिए उस इंसान से मिलेंगे जिनकी वजह से गीता और बबीता चैंपियंस बनी, इनके पिता श्री महावीर फोगट से। महावीर जी नमस्कार।
धन्यवाद जी।
जब आपने अपनी बच्चों की ट्रेनिंग शुरू की तो आसपास के लोगों का, गांव के लोगों का क्या रिएक्शन था?
देखो उस टाइम लोगों ने बहुत ज्यादा मेरा विरोध किया। लोगों ने मारे ताने, लड़कियों कुश्ती करो, लड़वा रहा है, इनके शादी करेगा लड़कियों से, लड़कियों का गेम नहीं होता है वो, इसको शर्म नहीं आती है, बेशर्म आदमी है। फिर मेरा एक जवाब था, जब लड़की प्रधानमंत्री बन सकती है तो लड़की पहलवान क्यों नहीं बन सकती।
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया हमसे बातचीत करने का। थैंक यू सो मच।
A feel-good moment from the Witness documentary currently online and showing on Al Jazeera, Aamir Khan, The Snake Charmer. Have a look here on my laptop. This is where you can see it online. Malika?
Well, a couple of comments to end this conversation. The chatty few on YouTube Live says, I agree that Aamir Khan brought the conversation to homes where it can become an open conversation instead of one held in private among women and a few men. And one other comment from Twitter, this person says, I am so empowered as a man by Aamir Khan's stand against unequal gender norms that I can't wait to see the film.
Nina, Anidi, and Raksa and Prarana, thank you very much for being in this conversation, debating and discussing Aamir Khan, and also, Nina, your documentary. Thanks for sharing that with us and for joining us on the stream today. This conversation continues always online using #AJStream. See you soon. Thanks for watching.